Dissecting the Sixers 112-101 loss to the Boston Celtics.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Keith Pompey. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, we got a lot to talk about, about last night's game, last night being Wednesday's night game against the Boston Celtics. It was the Sixers' second preseason game, and like the first one, this game was against the Celtics, of course, and they lost by 11 points. Now, James Harden didn't play. Joel Embiid didn't play. Nick Nurse is saying they're ramping them up. I asked him a question about did they have any setbacks or are they out of shape? And he came back with, Nick Nurse being the coach, came back with saying, well, no, they're trying to get them back in the, ready and they're veterans and they're going about it differently and this and that. I didn't believe any of that. I didn't. I think that, maybe Joel, they feel like he might not be in optimum shape. I think, again, and this is just me, like the whole James situation, like James played last year in the preseason, right, when he could. Maybe it has something to do with him trying to get traded, a lot of other things. But, it's one of those things where I get the gist that they knew that they weren't going to play. And they're saying they're ramping it up. They're questionable. They're this, they're that. I don't see it that way. I see it like they know that these guys weren't going to play. And they may play the next game. Who knows? But that's how I see it. Right. That's how I see it. But other than that, I guess the story of the day is kind of sort of outside of James Harden, of course, is how did the offense do? Right. And, last game, I felt like the offense did a little bit better. I felt like we saw times where Tobias Harris was posted up. We saw, each different guys bringing the ball up. We even saw PJ Tucker bring the ball up. This time I think there was a lot of ball movement, but then it unraveled a little bit in the second half, right? You saw where they had 5 guys who scored in double figures, right? Kelly Oubre Jr. leading the league in scoring with 18 points, right? Then you had Tyrese Maxey having 17 points. And then you had Paul Reed. You had DeAnthony Melton. And you had Jaden Springer with 10 points. And then, it was a balanced attack. Then you had Tobias Harris with 9 and Danny Green with 8. Now, the problem is that Tobias had 9 points, but he shot 2 for 9 from the field, right? DeAnthony Melton had 10 points, but he shot 2 for 6 from the field, right? So it's one of those things where you look at it and you say to yourself, yeah, you had balance, but some guys just had off shooting nights, right? As a team, the Sixers shot 42. 0.9% from the field. They were 36.4% on threes. And it just seemed to me that they did have different lineups in there where they had other that was different from the first game. I liked the ball movement in the second half. I didn't like it I liked it in the first half. I didn't like it in the second. So with that being said, they showed me something early on, but I don't know, it just unraveled. But I do like what I saw collectively over 2 games. I do. If they can play this way, of course, they got to play better than they did today. But if they could play with this ball movement, getting Tobias Harris more involved, letting PJ Tucker have touches, I feel like the offense will be extremely effective. I do. If they can continue to do this, I think so. But what they need to do is, I think in the first half, they were, at least early on, they were playing at an elite level, right? And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like I don't know if they took their foot off the gas. Guys are trying to get theirs, but it just, in the second half, they just couldn't match what they did in the first half, and that's not good. The Sixers got to play much better than that. They do, and they know it, but they have to play better than that. The offensive performance just wasn't consistent in this game like it was the last game. And what we'll do is, when we get back from this break, I want to talk to you guys about the defense. And, I think they have the same problems they had a year ago with that perimeter defense. But we'll talk about that when we get back from this live read. Snap into action this NBA season, or you can do the NBA, you can do the NFL, but I want to talk about the NFL season. So snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get into the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Now, the thing is, the defense. When you look at it, you say to yourself that the Boston Celtics really didn't shoot the ball that well, from 3. I mean, they did okay, you say. Now, they made 16 of 44 3-point shots, right? But the crazy part is, it was a tale of 2 halves, because in the first half, they shot from 3. They shot 12 of 24, which is 50%, right? I'm talking about wide open. Like, guys were just getting out there and they were wide open. It just seems like the Sixers were always a step too slow. Now, when you look at it in the second half, you'll say to yourself, like, well, you know what? The Sixers came to play in the second half because the Celtics only made 4 of 20. Now, you can argue that they did step the defense up, but to me, it was more like they were just missing, right? I mean, they were missing. Of the 4 of 20, Sam Hauser was 2 of 4. The other 3-pointer came from Peyton Pritchard, who shot 1 for 5 in the second half, right? And then Sleeve Majatrich, he was 1 of 2, right? So you look at it and you want to say, like, okay, you can say that the Sixers improved their defense, but this was the second game in a row where guys were just bombing back, just raining threes on them, right? It can't happen. They got to get better. I mean, they have to get better. But the problem is, when you look at this guy, You got Jaden Springer, a guy who rarely played last year. He was a quality perimeter defender. You have Patrick Beverly, a quality perimeter defender, but he's getting a little bit older. Danny Green was a knockdown solid one as well, right? But then as we noticed, he kind of wasn't the same guy towards the latter stages of his career when he was here the first time. So it's kind of like you don't want to put a lot of pressure on him. But I'm telling you, this is something that the Sixers really need to improve upon if they expect to contend this year, if they expect to do stuff, because there's a lot of shooters around, and I can see guys just having a field day against the Sixers. So this is something that they need to correct. They got to get this perimeter defense down. They do. They really need to get the perimeter defense down if they expect to contend this season. And when we get back, we're going to talk about Danny Green. Danny Green, I'm telling y'all, Danny Green was balling. He was straight up balling. Danny Green is a guy who kind of struggled in the first game. Not kind of, he struggled shooting the ball in the first game. But this game, Danny had 8 points on 3 for 6 shooting. The crazy part is Danny made his first, he scored 5 points, made his first 2 baskets, and had 1 steal in the first 42 seconds of him entering the game in the first quarter. I mean, he was balling. And when you look at Danny, you say to yourself, is he going to make this roster? I think he is. I do. I mean, the way that they talk about him, the way everything else is as if that he's going to make the team, right? I mean, they don't have any legitimate, bona fide 3-point shooters. And that's what Danny is. He's a bona fide 3-point shooter. So I think that he'll make the team. He also plays solid D as those 2, the 1 steal, but then he had another steal. So he had 2 steals, and both his steals came in the first quarter. So when you look at it, Danny is balling. It's crazy because, he's considered to be on the bubble. He has a really bad contract in regards to being player friendly. Is really, really team friendly, but I expect him to make it. I do. I mean, I like his leadership. He's a champion. They only got 2 champions, I believe, on this team, him and PJ Tucker, and Danny won 3 of them, right? I'm just one of these guys where I think that he's going to help him out a lot. I do. And it may not always be scoring points, but I think from a leadership standpoint, and the fact that he won 3 chips, I think he's going to help him. But look, I want to thank y'all for listening. You can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast at. It's free and available. You can also check out the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. But when you go there, make sure you click on the Liberty Bell. By doing that, you become a new subscriber, and you get notified when the next podcast drops, right? So, make sure you do all that. And I'm telling you, do it today, people. Definitely do it today. Deuces. Peace.